Legacy of a King, a Legacy series novel by Charlene Sponsel. Chapter 4, Unsolicited Help. 42nd day of fall, 4:46. I'd ceased shivering by the time someone shuffled onto the balcony. I said I want to be alone, I snapped. But your evening meal has arrived, the strange little man said. I'm not hungry. When was my last meal? Breakfast with father, at the loud, full to bursting inn, had only been bitter tea and dry bread. Mia told me you haven't eaten since you arrived. Leave me alone! I stamped my foot, and Zuri hurried back into the room, leaving the doors open. I had milk cake and wine in the dining hall, a roll and broth the night before. Why had I insisted on coming here? As if I had a choice. Stars came out one by one as daylight faded, but I remained on the balcony. My mind wandered in a million directions, yet no direction. Inside, servants argued. One was Belia's handmaid, and I expected the footsteps behind me. It was only a matter of time before she attempted to drag me inside. I ignored her. A heavy cloak made of warm, scratchy wool flavored with grass and leather wrapped around my shoulders. I hugged it, pretending my father's arms were around me. My eyes burned anew. Thank you. I'm sorry for snapping, I told her, my voice thick with emotion. I've made a terrible mistake. When my mother died, my father... A sob escaped my throat. I can't stand the king going through what he did. It changed him forever. The elderman thinks I can help, and I want to. I do. The queen was kind to me. She wanted me here. Why else would she send for me? The king doesn't, and I miss home. I don't know what to do. Mother always had a soft spot for hopeless causes, a masculine voice said. Whipping around, my eyes landed on Camich. I tried to push past him as he laughed aloud, but he restrained me. Sorry, but the look on your face. You're like ice. He rubbed my arms with sincere concern and pulled me inside to the roaring fireplace. What were you thinking? Are you trying to kill yourself? Hurling yourself over is quicker. Don't be morbid, I cocked my head. The boy I met a half-cycle ago wasn't someone I would have assumed would show the concern his bright green eyes conveyed. You need not fuss over me. I'm accustomed to the cold. I've seen snow. Of course I'd seen snow, I thought, feeling stupid. Have you seen your common sense? Because clearly you've lost it. I'm fine. What are you doing here? I owed Mia a favor. A roguish grin formed on his face, and Mia's flooded with color as he winked at her. I scrunched my nose at them. You're a cute kid. I'm not a child. I straightened my back to appear taller. He laughed. Indeed? I don't see a single white strand. Heat filled my face, and I drew the hood up in a disastrous attempt to cover my wind-blown hair. I had highlights, but not many. Being only 11, they had just begun appearing. I'd better go. Bring my cloak with you later, he said to Mia, and she nodded eagerly. Take care, Red. I glared at the back of his head. Why did you bring him here? I pouted, discarding the now offensive garment. Miss, you haven't eaten, and it's much too cold for you to be on the balcony. We're charged with your care. If you take ill, it'll be on our heads. I'm sorry to cause trouble. I thought you were Princess Belia's handmaid. Seems I am everyone's handmaid of late, miss. Please, call me Lili. Mia shook her head. I couldn't be doing that, miss. With only cook back home, I'm not accustomed to having people wait on me. I'll use your name if you'll eat. My stomach growled as I bit into a biscuit and allowed Mia to comb my hair. Camich is full of himself, and it's presumptuous of him to be so familiar. How do you tolerate him? It's not like we have a choice. Camich is the king's youngest, and he is charming. That is the last word I would use to describe him. You like him? I asked in disbelief. Everyone does. You'll see. He's Injun like his father, she gushed, and I rolled my eyes. Zuri opened the bedroom door, lit the lamp on the night table, and turned down the covers. I sank into the soft mattress, a good deal more comfortable than Mia's had been, but I missed the familiar hardness of my leaf mattress. Good night, I called into the sitting room. Good night, miss, Mia said. Lili, I corrected her. Thank you, Zuri. He bowed and climbed into bed beside me. You can't be my bedmate. You aren't even a girl. I am your night guard. I am Ajin. What does that mean? I am neither boy nor girl. You're not a boy? It's considered rude to inquire about such things. I covered my mouth. I'm sorry. Sometimes I don't think. Father says it's my most dreadful trait. Zuri smiled, showing teeth that were smaller than usual, with sizable gaps between them. I can think of worse. Good night, miss. He rolled away from me, and I pulled the red feather blanket to my chin. It was warm and had no thin spots, but I would have preferred the blanket my mother once slept under. Moonlight poured through the window, producing shadows around the room. I was glad I wasn't alone. Are there other West Foresters in the castle? None, Zuri answered curtly. In Alonji? I don't know, miss. Where are you from? I don't know, he repeated. His voice stifled beneath the covers. Did you never ask your parents? I asked, propping myself on my elbows. I have no parents. He rolled onto his back and flopped his arms over the covers. You are full of questions, aren't you? I'm sorry, but if I explain, will you sleep? I nodded. Ajin never finished maturing. It doesn't matter whether we are boy or girl. They sent me away before someone discovered me. I remember nothing but Alonji. I've never heard of such a thing. You are too young to be exposed to such horror. The world has little use for Ajin. It's a familial trouble that can ruin the prospects of an entire family. It's taken care of as expediently as possible. Many times parents kill them because death draws no questions. I shook my head to rid myself of the awfulness of it. That isn't fair. Little about the world is fair. I've seen war run rampant through this same castle. Now, go to sleep. The war was ages ago. You're too young to have worked here during the war. You are wonderfully naive, child, he said. I'd never heard the word used as anything but an insult, and didn't understand how he could find my stupidity a virtue. I was as I am, and how I will be when you have children. Was he immortal, like the creatures in the tales of the mountains? How old are you? I don't know. How could he not know? How do they know a baby is Ajin? Our proportions are wrong. It sometimes isn't obvious for half a cycle, which makes it difficult for the parents. Sleep, child. He felt bad for the parents? Can I ask one more question? Zuri shook his head. What is it? Mia said Camich is Injun? It is its opposite, in a way, was his insipid answer. But he continued. They are born ready to mature, rare in girls, still familial. They're attractive, have enhanced senses, and age slowly. All the advantages of Ajin, with none of our afflictions. Have I answered your questions for tonight? He said, no longer attempting to hide his irritation. Yes, thank you, Zuri. Good night, miss. I closed my eyes and tried to remember when the war ended, but found myself surrounded by fireweed and the white paper trunks of tall carracats. Home. I picked up a giant 5-pointed leaf. The red center radiated to orange, yellow, and finally green. I spun around as a woman called my name and light flooded my eyes. I'm late. Zuri, help me. If you slept instead of asking questions half the night, keeping poor Zuri awake, you would be much better rested, Mia scolded. I relaxed, hiding beneath the coverlid as I rolled away. Morning, I said, the greeting muffled by my blanket. Mia rushed around the room, clinking dishes and slamming armoire doors. Why don't we eat in the dining hall? None of the family has eaten there since the Queen passed, Mia said, tugging at my blanket. I stretched and sat up, not wanting to delay her any longer than I already had. Your first lessons are today. I flopped back into the pillows. Never mind, I'm not getting up. You're off to a good start with Camich. It's raining. Lessons will be in his drawing room. In the few times I've met him, he's laughed at me twice, and now calls me Red. You may call it promising, but I call it a disaster. It won't be that bad. Easy for you to say. I sat at the edge of the bed, resigned to do what I must. Maybe you and Kesma will be friends. She seemed pleasant. I wiggled my toes and they disappeared into the shaggy beige carpet. She is, and she loves to learn. She is the cautious sort, particularly around Camich. Brothers, I know what that's like. Mia let out a small laugh. Brothers. How would I go about obtaining an audience with Elderman Sitak? The Elderman? He doesn't have except his quarters, but you wouldn't want to go there. Can't I go to his drawing room? Is it like the king? Must he invite me? No, it's on a private floor. I'll see his manservant when I take your breakfast tray down, and tell him you want to see the Elderman. That'd be better. I'm sure he'll find you when he's ready. Mia helped me dress in the fanciest West Forester ensemble from my trunks. I was glad to don soft fabrics from home. What would you like done with your hair? She asked, playing with the limp strands. Something to show off my highlights, however little there may be. She shot me a tight-lipped smile in the mirror, which stood to emphasize her thin lips and wide mouth. You have a fair amount in back. Leave it to me. When she finished, I climbed the stairs, mindful of the guard playing my shadow. I stopped before reaching Camich's drawing room and called upon the grace my people were known for that I should have inherited. I curtsied to the instructor, who sat on a sofa draped with a worn green knit blanket and stared wide-eyed at Kesma and Camich. The latter's eyes darted around, and he raised his eyebrows. Are you just going to stand there? Heat rose to the tips of my ears, but a retort didn't occur to me. We were about to begin our numbers lesson. Have a seat, miss, the instructor said. I made a point of turning my back to Camich as I removed my cloak and draped it over the chair, which was stiff and unused. Leather-bound volumes stuffed his desk and shelves. One with a red spine had The Westfall written in gold leaf. Who was this boy? I longed to examine the curiosities that sat upon every surface, and the walls crowded with sketches of animals and places I'd never seen. But I sat, lending my attention to the lesson. I was never what you would call an outstanding student. My instructors described me as unfocused and lazy, at best a daydreamer. I'd finished school a cycle before, but I was like a child as I listened. Numbers didn't concern me. I'd been studying to be a seamstress, and recognizing the problems, I straightened. Don't mention that, whatever else you do, I told myself, since it would encourage Camich's ridicule. I rolled my eyes. Why not? I shouldn't be ashamed of it. I pursed my lips and nodded, but it was too late. Camich raised his brow and smirked. I shrank in my seat, hiding behind my lesson as heat flooded me, setting a tone for the day. At midday, the Elderman entered, and his presence dominated the room. Elderman Sitak, the instructor stuttered. Iliota requested to see me. I mustered my nerve and rose. May we speak in private? I asked, my voice shaking a touch. He gestured to the open door. The moment it shut behind us, his stentorian voice filled the hall. I assume you wish to explain yourself.